Hey, I'm sure you guys all heard the news about Dynasty Warriors 9. I honestly don't like making videos about, things that barely have any gameplay, but from what I saw, I actually haven't looked at all the articles and stuff, but it seems like they're going for a full open world. But you know me, I can barely tolerate open world games. I did really like the first Crackdown and the first prototype. I did play the second prototype on PS3 when I first moved here because I had a Blockbuster rental back when they were still open. I really didn't like that game as much as the first one, but in general, I can't stand open world games. They bore me to tears. Uh, I have a lot of fears that both the gameplay and the performance, is going to suffer because of it. And I would love to be proven wrong. I mean, like I said, I'm sure there's plenty of other people making videos about this, but I know, I'm going to get asked for my opinion on it. So I just wanted to make it short. I hope that I'm proven wrong. I hope that it has a solid performance. I hope that they're actually able to do revamp for the combat, like they mentioned. But to me, it feels like with the limited budget that Koei games have, they don't really have gargantuan budgets like all the other open world games do. I hope that what they mean with open world is that it will be more like Tokiden 2, where you have a hub town. You have I don't know what village it is. It's not Utakata village from the first game. It's like some other village. You can go out there, and there's like a small contained open world that didn't really, you know, it didn't balloon or inflate the scope too much, and it wasn't too. From what I've seen, I haven't played the game yet. Obviously, it's not out in English. It doesn't seem like it's like most other open world games, where it's just you run around in empty expanses of nothing for minutes at a time before something happens. That's my biggest concern. And I feel like if they do try to make a big, ambitious open world and do the combat revamp at the same time, I feel like something's got to give. I feel like either the combat revamp is going to be something like Dynasty Warriors 6, where it was like one step forward and 10 steps back. Like the only really good things we got from DW6 was basically the universal guard and dodge canceling. The rest was pretty much a step back. Like that game, I don't know if you remember it, but it basically turned the game into the button masher that all the Western reviewers thought it was for all those years up to that point. I think it was like about 6 years of Dynasty Warriors Muso games at that point. Now, I have a lot of fears about it, honestly. I feel like they really should have revamped the combat first. I feel like they should have maybe done another game in the traditional Muso style and worked on revamping the combat, and then tried to be more ambitious with the open world than the next one. However, it has been quite a few years since the last mainline Muso game in both branches, both the Samurai and Dynasty branches. Samurai Warriors 4 was like 3 years ago now. Same thing with Dynasty Warriors 8. It has been quite a few years. I assume that they've been working on it for a while. I do kind of feel like for them to wait this long about announcing it, they should have had some gameplay. But for all we know, they might not have to wait that long. But yeah, my biggest concerns with it are just how they're going to address the combat. The combat has grown pretty stagnant. The Storm Rush, the affinity mechanic, was very half-baked. For me, at least for anybody who liked to play the game with a technical playstyle, the affinity system really limited what you could do. You really only got like maybe one or two generic officers per map that you could actually do a full combo on. Even for people who don't play with that mindset, the whole affinity system was very limiting. It was frustrating to people. Some people probably couldn't understand why the bosses and the officers didn't stagger and stuff like that. I feel like they're going to have to say a lot about it. I'm assuming that maybe it will be out next year if they're saying something about it now, but then the trailer had absolutely no gameplay. So I'm not really sure what to think. I woke up pretty early this morning. I don't sleep as long as I used to because of all the stress I've been under. I hope that with the stuff that I'm doing behind the scenes, with my routine, with my vitamins and my diet and stuff like that, that will get better. But it was kind of cool waking up early this morning and seeing the game announced. You probably saw me tweeting. I was a little frustrated that it was open world, that it was announced that it was open world, but that's been a rumor for a few years now. I just hope that, with the obviously smaller budget that they're going to have compared to stuff like Final Fantasy 15, that they're actually able to, temper their ambitions and deliver something that, they can actually make a quality product with, instead of trying to copy what the Western guys do, because those games have plenty of problems too. They have gargantuan budgets, but they've got tons of problems as well. I mean, I haven't played Final Fantasy 15, but I heard from Squillo that the open world in that has a lot of fluff and just nothing. I think that they're definitely going to have to prove that their game is not going to be that. I think one thing that will really determine what kind of open world it will be is what platforms it's on. Obviously, they're not going to be able to do a huge, expansive open world like they were talking about in the announcement today if the game's going to be on PS3 and Vita. That's probably why Tokiden 2, I remember I had the exact same concerns about Tokiden 2 when that was announced. They were talking pretty much the exact same thing. They were talking about an open world and there was no gameplay footage. And then it came out and we saw that it was on PS3 and Vita, and that pretty much meant that the open world was not too crazy. You did have more freedom. There weren't as many loading screens and stuff like that, but it was still contained and it wasn't completely ridiculous. It didn't, from what I've seen anyway, it doesn't seem like it really disrupted the gameplay flow or loop. So that's what I hope. I know people were gonna badger me about this until I said something. I tend to not really get too hype about games anymore unless they show some pretty solid gameplay. But from what I've seen, they seem to be wanting to do an open world, and they want to revamp the combat. They said that they want to maybe abolish the square and triangle charge attack system again, which to me, I'm sure anybody who's a series veteran, that's definitely a red flag, especially if they've already said that all the characters are going to be in this game. It kind of feels to me like that's a bit of a red flag, honestly. If they're going to be doing a huge revamp and a big open world in the same game, like, how good can the combat be? But like I said, this is all just speculation at this point. I hope that they'll get some gameplay out sooner than later, but I'm probably not going to make videos about the game too much until there's actual gameplay for it. But one thing you can do if you want to stop all the endless speculation that's going on in your head, if you're a Muso fan right now, is pay attention to when they announce the platforms. If they still have the game on last-gen platforms and the Vita, then that's obviously going to limit the scope of the game. That will probably be a good thing in the long run. But if it does end up to be a huge open world, then I think that's going to probably produce some problems in terms of just the scope of the game, the pacing, and maybe even the performance, and probably the depth of the gameplay too. But who knows? They have been doing years and years of spin-offs at this point. One Piece, Pirate Warriors, I haven't watched a single episode of One Piece, and aside from the pretty frustrating story and the grind to get the full movesets, I really enjoyed that game. And they've done several spin-off games since then. There's been Hyrule Warriors, Berserk, all kinds of other stuff. It seems like they're taking feedback from those games. So maybe what they've been doing all this time is they've been testing new mechanics on those spin-off games, and maybe they're just going to make some huge homogeneous blob of all those mechanics, and maybe they'll make something good. But for now, I suggest that you guys temper your expectations and your hype. Like, open world and revamping the combat could mean anything at this point. They said the same thing with Dynasty Warriors 6, and we know how that game turned out. The only thing you don't have to worry about at this point is that the whole roster is going to be in there. So it's likely not going to be a Dynasty Warriors 6 situation where like half the cast was cut out, and then only a fraction of the playable characters in the game had their own unique moveset. Everyone else had cloned movesets like spears and swords and stuff like that. That doesn't seem like that will be a problem this time, but the other things definitely is a red flag. I hope that they will speak up about it sooner than later. I also hope that they did not announce it too soon. I think announcing a game these days is it must be very difficult for the people who work at the company, the people who do the marketing, because you don't know if the game will get delayed. You don't know, anything could happen, really. A good example is the Resident Evil 2 remake. I have an anxiety disorder, so I don't really play horror games at all, but I did play RE2 on N64 way back when, like 20 years ago at this point. I think that they announced that game way too fast, because obviously there hasn't been like a single trailer for it. Like that's a good example of a game that people wanted, but there hasn't been a single second of gameplay, and it's been like over a year since they announced it. I hope that this is not the situation that they're going into with Dynasty Warriors 9, because they've obviously been working on it for a while. It's been completely quiet in the mainline Muso front for both of their core franchises. It's painfully obvious that they've been working on it for a while, but I don't know how to feel about them announcing it with just like a 30-second teaser with no gameplay. I hope that they have a good marketing, plan in the works. I hope that we'll actually get some more information about it later on. Yeah, that's all I've got to say about it. You guys can post in the comments and I'll reply to you there. But I'm going to go ahead and do some Dodonpachi DLC for now. Now, I've been playing this game a lot. I know people are probably concerned that I'm becoming a shmup player. It's becoming a shmup channel. That's definitely not the case. There's just not much going on at the moment. I actually did get the emulator for Knights of Valor 3, but it's not working properly. I'm going to have to wait until my friends in the arcade community on Twitch can help me troubleshoot it, and maybe I can get it working. So maybe sometime next week I'll be able to do that. But for now, I'm just kind of doing random stuff. Honestly, my views have been down a lot lately, and I don't even know why. It doesn't seem like it's the content that I'm producing. It's all the algorithm stuff. So I felt like I haven't really wanted to put a ridiculous amount of work into the channel right now. Let me move my mouse pointer. Sorry. But there will be a giveaway next week for those of you who are interested. I'd like to do it before Christmas. This game for me represents how good it can be to have a backlog. I think people look down on having a backlog so much these days. As long as you don't buy 200 games at the Steam sale, sometimes it's nice. I'm pretty broke right now. I don't have money for anything. I'm probably not going to be able to get anything on the Steam sale. Aside from maybe a Christmas present with Steam code or something. Actually, go ahead and restart this. I'm probably not going to be able to get anything, so it's nice to just have some games that you can just boot up and play, and especially if you're a content creator or you run a channel like me. It's nice that you can have... I don't really have a giant backlog. I have a pretty medium controlled amount of games that I haven't finished yet. It is nice to have stuff that you can just boot up and play without any I bought this game like the week of California Con. I've had this for about maybe 8-9 months now. It's still not even anywhere near done. A lot of it was just getting better at the game. This is not a shmup feel progression. It's more like it has ships that you buy. There's no actual progression. The progression is very much like a fighting game. You just get better. Shit's a lot of fun to play, even though the mechanics are pretty simple. Cool how it even has the slower movement. Really glad that I spent a lot of time playing Dodonpachi defender run. A lot of people have said this game is repetitive. It definitely is. You do fight a lot of the same bosses over and over. I think someone who plays a lot of hunting games like Monster Hunter and God Eater probably wouldn't mind the repetition that much, but I think a lot of the complaints come from people who don't play those kinds of games. Obviously, I don't play a lot of hunting games myself. It's fun, just having a portable game like this with really high quality Japanese phones is pretty much console perfect. I've done numerous videos of the porting this. Definitely one of the best, most impressive team players. I've only had a couple of performance issues, and it's mostly when there's a bunch of Zago movies that are popular. Sometimes when there's a bunch of Zago at that point, it doesn't really matter. I play this a lot. The other day I was eating in the deli in Albertsons and then make some new chicken tenders and I played through like a whole level of this. Pretty awesome. Definitely gives me high hopes for the Switch. Hopefully we'll have more niche arcade game modes and stuff to play on there. Doesn't seem like the Delta Sword it's pretty strong as it is. I wonder what the damage values are for the laser. The laser seems to do pretty crazy damage even when you don't have it maxed out. Go ahead and end the video now. I'll probably make some more footage of these runs in the near future. But there's my thoughts on Dynasty Warriors 9. It's basically just a lot of red flags from, you know, being around the internet age of video game marketing. I've really had to temper my expectations, and I hope that you guys do the same too. I'm sure there are some of you who want it to be a big, large, expansive open world, but I seriously doubt that that's what it's going to be. I really don't think they're going to dump tens of millions of dollars into a Muso game in 2017. I know people would like that. I mean, if they could pull off a very big, expansive open world and dump millions of dollars into it, it probably wouldn't do that bad. You know, it would definitely have better combat than most other open world games, just by default. Even if they did do some really crazy combat revamp that just, you know, really turned the game upside down. But I feel like the chances of that are pretty low. Even if they don't go, you know, last gen, if they go current gen only, I think there's a pretty high chance that it's going to be a more controlled open world than what people are expecting. But it's all hearsay right now. I don't really think they've said much of anything. They announced the new character. They said that it's open world. They had a 30-second trailer with no gameplay, and they said that they want to revamp the combat. Now that kind of concerns me, not just because of how that could go and how badly it's gone in the past, just we don't know if they even have the revamp set in stone because of how vague that statement was. That could mean that the game is very far off, and if it is, I hope that you know, they have it set to release at least sometime within the next year, because if it's another Resident Evil 2 remake where it's been over a year and they haven't shown a single asset from it, then they're really going to lose their momentum. There isn't really another mainline Muso game on the horizon at all right now. We don't even know what their next franchise Muso game is. They have Muso Stars, which is mostly just a franchise Muso game with their own intellectual properties. They haven't really said anything about what's coming after Berserk, so if they've announced this game way too early, like the RE2 remake, you could also argue maybe the Final Fantasy VII remake is kind of in the same spot, but they have shown some early gameplay of that, then I think that's going to be really bad for the whole Muso genre in general. Obviously, Basara is in a pretty bad spot right now. Kobayashi, the director, was talking about how maybe it was the last game. He was basically vague booking on Facebook about how Yukimura Den did not do well, and that even though it wasn't supposed to affect the sales or the production of future titles, it seems like it has. I think if they don't bring this game out sooner than later, then it's really going to hurt the genre as a whole. We don't know what's going on with Basara right now either. Basara seems to be in a bit of a slump too. I think that they were expecting to get more sales for Yukimura Den, and the game bombed. And admittedly, rightfully so. I mean, you really only have 4 full-fledged characters in the game. They are even missing, 2 moves. You have the kids, which are basically just nerfed versions of the adult characters. It's kind of a really interesting time for the Muso community right now. We don't really know what's going on. We just had a big game announcement, but all it's really done is it's just spawned more questions that may not get answered anytime soon. I have a gut feeling that this will be it might be another RE2 remake where they may not show any gameplay at all. I would hope that with how quiet they've been that they're farther along than I think, but given that the trailer had no gameplay, I'm really not sure what to think. Anyway, those are my thoughts. I'm going to go ahead and stop the video there so that people can get my thoughts easier without all the gameplay in the way. And I'll probably have some more of this out throughout the rest of the week. I will be trying to get the new emulator working soon, but I can't really make any promises. Maybe it's just buggy or something. I'll have to contact my friends and see if I can do something. But that would be a fun side project too. But unfortunately, I can't really promise anything at this time. Catch you guys later. Peace.